Have you ever struggled to connect Scripture to the issues you're facing today? You can discover what the Bible means to your own life with the NIV Application Bible from Zondervan. It features thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series. Throughout the Bible, original meaning notes help you explore the meaning of the biblical text, while application notes help you relate the Bible's teachings to your everyday life. Find out more at NIVapplicationbible.com. That's NIVapplicationbible.com. Have you ever struggled to connect Scripture to the issues you're facing today? You can discover what the Bible means to your own life with the NIV Application Bible from Zondervan. It features thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series. Throughout the Bible, original meaning notes help you explore the meaning of the biblical text, while application notes help you relate the Bible's teachings to your everyday life. Find out more at NIVapplicationbible.com. That's NIVapplicationbible.com.
Well, hello everybody. This is Hal.
And this is Melanie.
And we want to welcome you to another episode of Making Biblical Family Life Practical. We are at an undisclosed location in South Carolina for our annual family getaway. We call it a writing retreat or a lake retreat or something. But it's just basically, it's the end of the conference season and we just need some time to unwind and regroup.
Oh, this is one of my favorite places on earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fancy, not remotely.
No.
But it's got a beautiful view over the water and trees, and it's a long way from anywhere that could keep us busy.
And that's a good thing. And I think, this is a traditional time when a lot of people are taking vacations. We come after the 4th of July for other family to have access to the place too. But we, this is when a lot of folks are out traveling with their families. And I was thinking about that. The vacations can take a lot of different forms.
Let's say this first, though, Hal.
Yeah.
Because I think when you say vacation,
yeah,
a lot of families feel tremendous stress because they think that vacation means that you have to go to a theme park and spend $100 each for tickets and stay in a resort hotel that costs $200 a night, and that just doesn't seem within the realm of possibility.
Well, it never was for us.
No.
And that's what I'm getting to. For some families, that's reality for them that they do that kind of thing. But, it can be very quiet types of vacations, out camping in a park somewhere, or, my family, when we were growing up, we had a friend who had a house at the beach, and we used to rent the upstairs from them and go down and spend some time at the beach. And we've done a lot of travel. It's just a matter of, Dad's got a business trip. Let's pack up the kids and Mom, and we'll all go together. And Dad's sitting in a class or training session or meetings or something, and Mom and the kids are out doing the parks and the museums and
doing a different field trip every day.
Yeah, or dropping off one of the kids at college or picking up one of the kids from college, and let's take a couple of days and go camping on the way so that we can all kind of have a little time together to readjust. All of those things are valid.
Well, let's talk about some affordable ways to get vacation time in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what the Word has to say about this, because I think, I'm a workaholic by nature.
Right.
And, I have to deal with myself and say, no, it's not, I don't have to feel guilty over taking time off. I need time off.
Well, you see, God established a pattern of that right at the creation. In Genesis chapter 2, it says that in 6 days God created the heavens and the earth, and then the seventh day he rested. And that pattern of the Sabbath rest, 6 days of labor to 1 day of rest, is something that predates the fall of man. And it wasn't like God said, "Whew, boy, that was a lot to do." I mean, created the universe. Good grief, I need to take a break. But God didn't get tired, but I think he did this for our benefit to say, we're not meant to work continuously without a break, without recuperation, without a chance to kind of reset our minds and rejuvenate our spirit, so to speak. So there is that pattern right there in Scripture, that work and relaxation alternation.
Also, we see that in the Old Testament, it says that after a couple gets married, that they should take time off together. Mm-hmm. The time for, we think a honeymoon sounds like a very modern thing, but really that was something set up in Scripture.
Well, I always thought that was amazing. It's Deuteronomy 24, verse 5. It says, when a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war or be charged with any business. He shall be free at home 1 year and bring happiness to his wife whom he has taken.
A year. Wow.
That's a long time. And obviously he's probably, maintaining his farm or whatever to keep his new family fed. But still, the idea that there's a period of time in life where you need to withdraw from your normal responsibilities for a different purpose. And I think that's valid. There was one other thing that I was talking to you about this morning. There was a time in the Gospels where Jesus had sent the apostles out to preach and to teach and to heal, and they came back together and they were all excited and were telling him about it. And Jesus said, come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while. And that was in Mark chapter 6. So Jesus, saw that they had had a serious time of ministry, and they had been so busy and so overworked, he said they didn't even have time to eat. And so Jesus said, let's go away by ourselves and rest. And
wow.
So you know what? When the Lord himself tells his human ministers, hey, you need to take a break, I think that's a valid thing for us to say. It's all right to take some time off from our usual work and our normal responsibilities and go someplace different. It doesn't mean to say you need to go someplace quiet and climb into a cave and be in the darkness,
no,
but
to do something different from your normal activities.
Right.
And that kind of brings up a funny point. I remember several years ago when you asked me, where do you want me to take you for our anniversary?
Where do we want to go
Where do we want to go? And I just thought, I'm tired of going. We've been going for months, speaking at conferences.
Yeah.
I just wanted to stay home and do something. Staying home sounded like it's something special for me. We sent the kids off to the grandparents, and we had some time at home alone together. And I thought it was a blast.
So, you know what? There's not one answer to this. And I like J.C. Ryle said something. Now, J.C. Ryle was a very strict observer of the Sabbath, and he wrote a pamphlet about it. But one of the things he said was, it's meant to be a rest from your normal labors. And he said, for a man who sits in an office day after day after day, I'm not going to tell him that the Sabbath requires him to sit still at home.
Right.
A walk in the country may be what he needs to rejuvenate his mind, to prepare him for the next day's work. Likewise, the laborer, who puts down his tools, who leaves his mill or whatever, and goes home and just rests, just as quiet and reads the scripture or reads a book with his family or whatever, that's a change that helps prepare him for the labor to come. And so there's not one single answer. I know some of our vacations are very active.
Oh, yes.
And we're kind of historic for that. People well known for that.
Yeah, we tend to say you can rest when you get home.
Yeah. But look, let's take a break for our sponsor, and then let's come back and talk about some practical ideas to make a vacation something that's attainable for a lot of families.
That sounds great.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, CTC Math specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Kathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review. The lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way, not to the test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy-to-understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach, having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with practical assessment. Even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results. And the ones that were doing okay before now are doing brilliantly. Visit CTC Math today and start your free trial. That's ctcmath.com.
Okay, thank you to our sponsor for that. All right, so we're talking about vacation and what you can do to make vacation a reality in your family if you can't afford to spend several $1,000s and go to a resort.
Well, one of the things we used to do when life got really busy and we didn't have a lot of money is daycations.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we didn't even tell our kids we were going to do it, but we'd get up one morning and say, we're going to take a daycation, let's pack a lunch.
Uh-huh.
And we'd pack sandwiches or a picnic, and we go to a local state park, or you drive a couple hours to go to a museum, or some kind of go on a hike to do something fun for just even a day. And the cost was minimal, the gas to get there.
Yeah.
Because we took our own food with us, and so even if you have a very, very tight budget, you can do that. You can take daycations.
And I'll tell you, this is honestly, there's a lot of things in your local area that you have not seen yet. I know that there are things where we've lived for 20, 25 years now?
Yeah, 25 years.
And I know there's some places around our town and county that I haven't been to because you just think it's always there and I've got things to do.
I can do that anytime.
And
then you don't.
So maybe this is the time to go do those things, to go visit those local museums or go to that local park nearby or whatever.
Camping is a very affordable way to take vacations too. I remember years ago we were studying the Civil War, and we took our kids on a tour of the Civil War battlegrounds and the Booker T. Washington birthplace, and lots and lots of places related to the Civil War. Yeah. And it was very inexpensive because we camped the whole way.
No, and I remember that was when we were just getting started with homeschooling, and we went like Labor Day weekend. And since we didn't have to be back for the official bricks and mortar schools to start, we stayed over. We left on Labor Day weekend, but we stayed several days into that first week of September, and like all the parks were empty. All of the school families had to be back on their normal routine, and so we kind of had to run of places.
A lot of times it's cheaper during the off season too.
Uh-huh.
Now you may be thinking, but all the gear to go camping is expensive, folks. Let me tell you something.
Uh-huh.
Get on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, go to yard sales. Lots and lots of people buy camping gear and then decide they don't want to go camping after all. Mm-hmm. And you can buy that stuff used so cheaply. And even you can buy it new cheaply this time of year as they're trying to clear out the summer stuff and get the back to school stuff ready.
One of the things I learned, when we first started traveling around to conferences, we had 7 kids in the van with us, and we just couldn't afford to stay in hotels every night. And so we did a lot of camping on the road. And when you're doing it day after day, you kind of streamline it. You realize you don't need all this equipment like you were on a polar expedition or something.
Right.
You just, you just get to a state park, you throw the tent up, you make supper, you go to bed. So, it doesn't have to be a big production. It's something that you just need some shelter for the night and something to make yourself reasonably secure and reasonably comfortable.
Now, I will say this.
Yes?
I can't sleep on the ground anymore because it hurts my joints. And I found Coleman makes a really cool cot that has an air mattress on top of a cot.
Yeah.
And it's really comfortable. And so we have that for Mama.
Yeah.
But you can do a lot with air mattresses, with sleeping bags. Your kids won't care about sleeping on the ground because they'll be so excited to go camping.
Yeah, that is true.
Now,
mm-hmm.
you can get out and do things more affordably too by just using discount sites like Priceline and
yes,
hotels.com, and you can search for the least expensive hotel in an area.
Yeah, and what I found out with Priceline too, go ahead and set yourself up an account. I mean, you can reserve hotels as a guest on the site. But if you register for a free account, then they unlock a lot of the deals and discounts, beyond what's on the normal site. So that's worth doing that. Also, a thing that I found really useful, I use this every single week. there are several different discount programs for gas. Okay, like for example, some of the truck stop systems like Love's Travel Plazas, and such, Pilot and Flying J, others like that. They have discount cards that are free. You just sign up for an account on their website and download their app, and sometimes you can get 10 cents a gallon or more off.
Wow.
And that makes a difference. That adds up.
You can take your food with you too. For a long time we didn't eat out much at all, even as much traveling as we do, because we just couldn't afford it. But if you get a really good cooler, it'll keep food good for a long time, and we could just plan ahead and take picnic stuff with us. There's also, we've got a podcast about fast and easy travel meals.
Yeah.
We ought to link to that in the show notes.
Great idea. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things you can do to save money eating on the road.
One thing we did, you and I made a big trip to Europe when I was back in the Air Force, and we got free travel because we were flying on a military transport plane. And when we were on the ground in Europe, we did just that. We took our food with us. We had lunch on the road somewhere, sandwiches or whatever with the meat that we bought that morning in the deli. And then we would go out for dinner. We did a restaurant meal once a day. Everything else we did minimal, easy to fix and low cost type stuff. So you can mix it up like that.
Another thing you can do is make that lunch stop really special. You can plan ahead and plan to stop at a state park or a city park when it gets time for lunch, and let the kids run around and play. We've discovered some super cool places doing that.
Yeah, that we go back to again and again.
Yes. And that can make a long day of travel a lot more fun, and everybody have a better attitude at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the biblical pattern there, it's okay to recognize that your young children are not road warriors yet. That maybe they can't tolerate as long on the road in a single day as you might be used to. I know one family I was talking with a while back had driven across country, and they were driving like 700 miles a day, and I'm thinking, ach du lieber, I couldn't do that. I mean, we can drive 500 a day. We can stretch a little bit, but to just say 700, tomorrow's 700, the next day is 700 again. I couldn't manage
too
that.
Much.
And your young kid, it's okay to say, hey, we need to have regular breaks. We need to be a little more conservative in our plans for travel because we got small kids in the family with, and that's okay. It's a time of life, and there's a biblical example of that when Jacob was coming back from his time of sojourn back with his new family, and he met up with Esau on the way back into the promised land, and Esau said, well, come on, we'll escort you in. And Jacob said, no, it'll be too fast. It'll hurt the flocks, and the young kids can't bear it. And so, that's okay. That's okay to make plans with that.
That's really hard, though. Sometimes, I think dads tend to be more this way, but sometimes at least one of the parents is like, we've got to make miles, we've got to make miles, we've got to make miles. And you forget that, the point is the journey, that you need to enjoy it along the way.
Well, I got caught up in that first year or two we were on the road, and the kids came to me and said, Dad, we'd like to see America without a piece of glass between us. Yeah. Oh, you mean like we need to stop more frequently? Yes, please. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I tried to moderate my ambitions for miles in that kind of regard, too.
Yeah, I want to mention before we go, renting houses. Like, it might be Airbnb, it might be from a local rental.
Yeah.
We're in a family place right now.
Yeah.
But, this is very simple, very basic. It's not very attractive in the house.
Uh-huh.
But the house isn't where we want to hang out. We want to be out in the water. We want to be kayaking or fishing or swimming.
Yeah.
And at night, you can't see the walls anyway. We're playing games or doing puzzles, And so don't be afraid to go simple.
Uh-huh.
I don't think your kids will care.
No, it's all a big adventure.
That's
all
right.
a big adventure for them, and their memories. Even sometimes, if you end up with a bad place, that's part of the memory too. I remember reading one of the marriage books that we read before we got married, and the author Gary Smalley had talked to couples in his church who had been, married forever. And one of the things that kept coming up again and again and again is they said, "Oh, we camp." I said, "Why?"
Yeah, why does
Well,
that make a difference?
because when you're camping, you're sharing adversity, and you either can fix the blame or you can fix the problems.
Yeah, you learn to get along.
So you learn to get along, you learn to be flexible, you learn to moderate your expectations and demands, and it's a good experience. Plus, when you're camping, you can go places camp that you couldn't afford a hotel room. Let's be honest about it.
One thing though, we need to talk about devices.
Okay.
Because it's kind of frustrating to go on a vacation to build memories together, and everybody's got their face in their phone the whole time.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we have had a time, maybe even a short time, a couple of days, where everybody puts their phones away. And it usually makes everybody mad at first.
Yeah.
And they're whiny, and then they discover new things that they've forgotten that they were interested in. And so let me encourage you to put away your devices some, particularly mom and dad.
Yeah. Well, they're so useful, but, at a minimum, don't check social media for a few days.
Yeah.
Just let that, turn off that pipeline for just a couple of days, and you might find that your mental health improves. So,
for real.
Okay. Well, look, we are enjoying our summer. We hope that you're enjoying your summer. We hope that give you some things to think about and some hacks that will help you along. But all of it in the service of taking biblical principles into your family's life. And so we thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again. Until next time, I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
Thank you, and God bless you for listening.
Check us out at raisingrealmen.com. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
You've been listening to Making Biblical Family Life Practical with Hal and Melanie Young. If you found this program interesting, challenging, and encouraging, why not join us on the web at halandmelanie.com. That's HALANDMELANIE.com. Or follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Facebook/Hal and Melanie or Facebook.com/RaisingRealMen. This program is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Join us next week when we'll be back to talk about making biblical family life practical. Until then, thank you and God bless you for listening.